This is a collection of stories.
Landover Legend Studios presents
I've been through a lot.
the I Can't Make This Up podcast. By Big T.
Give it up for yourselves for coming out. Yeah, I think you guys are a great audience. You know, your smiling faces are why we do this. Depression. I'm happy tonight, though. I just got back from vacation. I spent some time with my parents. Spending time with my parents is hard. I think the hardest part about it is the beatings. I was 32, you know, she didn't have to spank me when I didn't make.
Because they're just going to take a percentage and they don't really know anything more than you could know if you just educate yourself. So
Yeah, I went to go see a broker years ago, and he gave me the breakdown on how the system works and what you should do, what you should look for, and how you could create your portfolio on your own. So for a while, I let him control it, and then I took it over myself. And at that time, I was in my 20s, so when shit hit the fan, I pulled out. And one of the dumbest things I ever did was sell my Disney stock before like Hannah Montana and shit blew up.
was Hannah Montana what made it?
Yeah, like
blow up?
I think it was like 2006, when I think Disney had bought Nickelodeon, and or they bought a bunch of their shows, and then like High School Musical came out, and all that stuff started to grow, and it just was like, I think maybe 3 years later, the escalation of Marvel started to happen. So all that stuff started to coincide with like, box office numbers and shit like that. So that's what made the popular, things grow. And I think uh Star Wars is attached to Disney, right?
Yeah, it
Yes.
is.
So all that shit I missed out on for, a measly $1,200, but
Oh,
I was strapped for cash, and I just didn't, think to just tough it out, but
yeah.
when you're in your 20s, you don't think about the future like that, not to that
Yeah.
extent, so.
Yeah. Lesson learned. That's tough.
Well, David Baker,
Yes, sir.
welcome to the I Can't Make This Up podcast. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you for joining me early in the morning. I know that you was knocking some things off the checklist for the day, so this is going to be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, so why don't you give me a little background on yourself?
Oh gosh. Well, I am 32. I'm single. Moved to Greenville last year, and I'm a stand-up comic. I'm about 1 year into stand-up comedy, and it's been really exciting seeing the scene here in Greenville. And in addition to doing stand-up, I have my own podcast called I Did This Instead of Killing Myself, which is a really weird name. Most people, it's a podcast about the local stand-up scene. So,
Mhm.
so those creatively are the two things I'm involved with right now: stand-up comedy and the podcast. And I think that's how we connected. We share the podcast thing, and I'm so grateful for you for having me on. And yeah, outside of that, I'm a sales rep. That's my day job. I work in medical sales, and I've been doing that ever since graduation. I've been with that same company, and I love that company. And it's done a lot for me. But what I found lacking was kind of the creative outlet for myself. And it wasn't really until the pandemic that I had the guts or just boredom to actually go forward with it. And I think you had a similar kind of experience with getting started with your thing, but so glad I got started. And now, I mean, we're having a blast here with all the comics here in Greenville, and I've met a lot of cool people. and you know, it hasn't taken away from the day job. It's actually enhanced it. Like I'm having more fun in my selling because I'm having fun outside of it. So it's really great, and I'm excited. I think Greenville has a great comedy scene that is growing. There's a lot of really fun young comics that are starting out. You know, we're not very good yet, but we're having a great time. I mean, and don't get me wrong, there are some great funny people, but yeah. So that's kind of my background, what I'm doing now.
Everything comes with repetition over time, whether it
That's right.
be experience or strength. All it takes is the repeated process. Before I go any further, is there any backstory to the name of your podcast?
Yeah. Yeah. So if you look at the logo on the podcast, it's got a little hangman on it, and
Hmm.
I did this instead of killing myself. So, do you know the comedian Louis C.K.? You
Yeah.
familiar? Yeah.
Hmm.
So he's a little controversial. He's my favorite comedian of all time,
Okay.
and he's got a lot of dark, edgy jokes, and some of my material is a little bit like that. I like edgy,
Yeah.
darker.
I was going to say something about the weird shit thing, but I'm gonna go ahead and let
The
you talk.
wheelchair thing. Oh, you saw one of my videos. Yeah,
uh,
one of my sets. Yeah. So I had a lot of anxiety about starting a podcast because it was like I felt like, oh, if I start this, people are going to think I think I'm really something special or I have something real to say. So I didn't want to come across as arrogant in how I started one, and I wanted to and it felt to me because I didn't know what I was doing. Like I didn't know how to start a podcast. So I felt like, okay, if you're going to do it, be self-deprecating and be funny in the name. And Louis had a joke in his special in 2020 where he's kind of making fun of this woman who had opened up her own shop. She had opened up this little, like it was her own business. And he said, when you walk into a shop like that, he says sometimes he doesn't even want to talk to the owner because he's like, oh, like this is just like he's looking at her little crafts and stuff. And he's like, really? You made this? You made this instead of killing yourself? And I was like, yeah, that's me. I'm the girl that opened her shop, and this is my silly little dumb podcast. So it's kind of like it's not based in mental health, and I don't mean to make light of suicide because obviously that's very serious. And
yeah.
but yeah, it's just kind of a self-deprecating name, and I thought it was attention getting. so yeah, that's kind of where that name came from.
Okay. Louis C.K. is funny as hell.
Dude, I'm glad you like him.
Uh, what was the name of the show he had on HBO?
Lucky Louie was on HBO,
Okay.
and then he had a show on FX called just Louie.
Yeah. Yeah. That show was funny as shit. A lot of dry humor in there that a lot of people don't understand, but I find funny as hell. So,
Good.
besides the fact that he takes risk on stage,
Yeah.
is what I guess you could say the PC culture doesn't really gravitate to. But it's like you got to understand that edginess is what throws people off, and what part of risk and taking chances. Sometimes people gravitate towards it, sometimes they don't. But you got to do that. You got to do that to stand out and be who you are. Because if he was just, dry, then nobody would get him. But he's genius in the way that he takes you through a bit and keeps you alive in it. If you pay attention to him, if you're a real fan of him.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing how he can take people to these dark places. Like, I mean, he's got jokes about 9/11, like the Parkland shoot. I mean, it's, yeah. But yeah, I think it's important, like in terms of comedy, because if you have such a sensitive PC culture and comedians or anybody's not taking risks, then speech suffers and artistic expression suffers. And with comedy, like you could do a bit like hundreds of times, and it takes you all those repetitions to find the way to tweak it to where an audience member can hear what you're saying and digest it in a way that it's not offensive and it is really funny. So, you know, with Louis bits, like there's versions of them, I'm sure, when they're in the earlier part of the joke writing process where they're not fully formed and ready. But you need to have permission to take those risks without being canceled to get to a finished product that's really good. So stand-up's kind of unique in that you have to try it out in front of an audience to see like, oh gosh, they hated that. Well, maybe if I change this word or change how I get into that topic or frame it a little different. With edgy stuff, you definitely have to do that. But yeah, he takes a lot of risks. So I think that's why his stand-up is the best, is some of the best, because he's willing to go places other people won't. So
Okay. Whatever comedians influence you besides Louis?
Jerry Seinfeld,
Okay.
he was one of my favorite comedians growing up. When I was little, I was in elementary school in the 90s, but the show Seinfeld was introduced to me by another friend. And it was like late 90s. So the show was about to be off the air. But if you remember, Seinfeld got all these syndication deals. So it was always on, like after the evening news. So we would record on VHS tapes all of the Seinfeld episodes and I would rewatch them. I have all of the Seinfeld things memorized. Like I have a Kramer poster over here. Like I just love the show. And then Jerry, he did those little stand-up scenes at the beginning of the show sometimes. I didn't really know what stand-up was, but yeah, he was a huge influence on me. I think when I saw his special, I'm Telling You for the Last Time, that was his HBO special.
I got that on DVD.
Do you? Word. Yeah, man. That was the first time I saw a stand-up comedy special. Because I was like, when I went to watch it, I was like, I liked your show, but what is this? You're just talking for an hour? That's interesting. That's weird. And then I watched it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. I enjoyed that hour way more than any of the little clips on the front of the episodes. And I was like, this is a real thing. Stand-up comedy. This is really, and because I had loved Seinfeld, the show, and him growing up, like, I would always, anytime he did anything, like when he came out with the Bee movie, I would go watch that. Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, that web series and now Netflix show he did. I loved doing that and kind of went down the rabbit hole of, what is stand-up comedy and everything like that. So that kind of led me to Larry David as well, because Larry David, he's amazing. Oh my gosh. Talk about the most neurotic guy in the world. Oh, and I think he's probably the real genius behind the Seinfeld show, just because he's got a dry, cynical sense of humor that's similar. I think there's parts of Louis that are kind of similar, but between him and Larry David, maybe. And he just, I just love his show. And then Curb Your Enthusiasm, was another. I absolutely love that show. But yeah, in terms of the other big stand-up comedian that influenced me is Norm Macdonald.
Okay.
Do you know Norm?
Yeah, he's in one of my favorite movies called Screwed with Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, Norm, man. I discovered Norm like within the last year or so, and he was another person where I wasn't sure about him until I stumbled across his kind of his interviews, and then I went back and watched his SNL Weekend Update stuff. And he's another guy that would just say stuff that like be so shocking, and he'd just be like, hey, like he had all the stuff about like he just went AWOL in the OJ trial. Like he had all those news, like he did all that. Yeah, in the roast of Bob Saget, I don't know if you ever seen that when he came out there. In a normal roast, you expect him to just go hard, and he tells all these dad jokes from like the 1920s. And but Norm is a fascinating guy to me because he's an author as well. I read his book, Not a Memoir, and he's a really thoughtful, intelligent guy. He plays a silly dumb guy on stage. Like he plays like he's oblivious, but he's really not. He's really brilliant. So I just find him fascinating and objectively hilarious. So Norm, I mean, he has a lot of interviews online. Most of them are silly and funny, but some of them are real serious. He thinks a lot about death. He thinks a lot about philosophical ideas. He thinks a lot about God. Is God real? Like, and he's got some real there's some real depth to Norm Macdonald. And I think he's one of the best in the world. So yeah, I mean, that's a good, I mean, I'm trying to think of anybody else. Chappelle is one of my favorites. Chappelle was another one where I loved his show, like the sketch comedy in the early 2000s. Like those are the best sketches, some of the best sketches I've ever seen. Like they'll never be beaten because you can't, like I don't think you get away with what he did. Like the black white supremacist sketch. Are you kidding me? The racial draft, dude. Oh my gosh, it was so funny though. And yeah, and he's one where like I thought the sketch comedy was amazing, and I was like, well, I don't know if there's anything else he could do that I would love, but his stand-up is also amazing. His first special, Killing Them Softly, was so funny. And I was blown away by that one because he's like in his early 20s. And he's funny. To me, it's really hard for me to laugh, or probably anybody, especially like older than me, to laugh at somebody in their 20s. Because it's like, what do you know yet about life? Like anything you say, it's going to be like, okay, well, you're really young. But he was just cut through all that and just a brilliant stand-up. Like, I think Kevin Hart said, like, Dave Chappelle is the baddest mofo with a microphone right now. Like, his level of thinking is next level. And he's still bigger than ever, you know? So, I mean, I could talk about comics forever, man. I'm sorry, but those are a handful. So yeah.
Yeah, you actually got me reminiscing, thinking about all these guys. I'm trying to remember the name of that movie that Norm Macdonald was in when he like came up with like a revenge business
Oh,
with the heavyset guy, but it was funny as shit.
yeah, with Chris Farley.
It wasn't Chris Farley.
Oh, it was
His name was Art
Artie
something.
Lang.
Yeah, yeah. I just can't think of the
Shoot.
name of that movie, but that was funny as shit. And fucking Dave Chappelle is my favorite stand up of all time.
Half Baked. That was the Chappelle movie. I love that Chappelle movie. Dirty Work. That's what it was.
Dirty Work, yes, yes.
Yeah.
That was another classic where it was random. Like, I could sit there and laugh hysterically at it, and other people sit around me like, why is this funny? Like, you don't see this shit? You don't see
Yeah.
the silliness that's going on right now? Like, who does this? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, for sure.
So you said you moved to South Carolina about a year ago?
Yeah.
Okay. Where you from originally?
I'm from Michigan originally.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Atlanta before most recently. So I went from Michigan to Charlotte for 2 years, and then I was in Atlanta for 4 years, and then now Greenville. So I think I'm in the South to stay.
Okay.
But yeah.
I'm assuming you were there for school.
Well, Michigan, my whole family's from there, so like I'm really Dutch. Like that's West Michigan is a very Dutch. Like I don't know if there was like a Dutch settlement back there back in the day, and it's like all my family's up in West Michigan. So I was living up there for most of my childhood, and then I went to school at Hillsdale College up there, which is south central part of Michigan, and then my company's based in Michigan as well. So yeah, when you agree to take a sales job at my company, you kind of have to be willing to move anywhere, wherever the open territory is. So I took the leap, got the opportunity for kind of a junior sales job in Charlotte, and then moved up from there. So
Oh, that's dope. You had an opportunity for growth and to travel at the same time.
yeah, that was the first, like, I encourage anybody to do that. I mean, if they're young, like, and to move away from home, and I mean, it's okay to stay at home, but for me, it was like it opened up a lot of things for me, just seeing what it's like in a new city. And I was really fortunate to have the jobs open up in beautiful cities. I mean, Charlotte is incredible. Atlanta is, Atlanta's overwhelmingly big in a way. I mean, it's crazy, and there's
Hmm.
tons going on there. And then Greenville's got a different speed as well. Um, so yeah, you kind of sacrifice some things. Like it's hard to keep moving and making new friends and everything, but
Hmm.
it's worth it. I mean, if you move in your 20s with a company, like, you can move up, so it helps.
Okay. So, uh, what was I going to say? You said that you was in Atlanta for a while, and then you moved there. So, isn't it kind of slower compared to Atlanta, where you at?
Yeah, it is, but that's probably a good thing for me. I was in my 20s. I don't know if you played football, right?
Hmm.
Did you play football in college,
No, no, high school.
high school? Word. Yeah, so I don't know. We were kind of wild, like, and I never, I never drank or anything leading up to college.
Hmm.
So I went crazy, and then with all my football buddies, I mean, we would go nuts, and then in my 20s, I kind of still would go out and party a lot, and, like, so not a ton, but on the weekends.
Hmm.
And when I moved to Atlanta, man, like, tons to do, but, like, I don't know. Like, the partying was just next level there, and I don't think it was a good environment for me to be around forever. I was like, it was fine, but, like, uh, I knew that I'm not going to be in my 20s forever. At some point, it'd be nice to kind of slow it down and be in a more of a community uh, atmosphere. And when I discovered Greenville, I was like, oh, that'd be something. And then I had the opportunity to my territory shifted where I had the chance to move here. So yeah, a little slower paced, but that season of my life was kind of done. I mean, um, I'm now over 30, so I didn't need to be having, like, a really wild scene. Um, Although Atlanta does have some cool stuff. It is sweet that the Braves are right there, and the Falcons, um, and there's tons to do outside of just the party scene. But for me, it was a nice break.
Hmm.
Uh, and I mean, are you from Greenville?
No, no, no. I'm from Maryland.
Oh, you're from Maryland. All right.
Mm.
Okay. So, I mean, what is your take on Greenville? Because how long have you been here?
No, no, I'm in Maryland.
Oh, you're in Maryland now. Oh,
Yeah,
geez.
yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, dude. You cut this out. I'm an idiot. I should have known this.
No, no, no. You're fine. I've been to Greenville, but like the Carolinas, Georgia, Tennessee, like all those have beautiful scenery and everything.
Hmm.
But when it comes to like everyday living, like the cost is nice in my opinion, but I need like I guess city noise or some type of action. Not like cop chases or anything, but I need something.
You know,
So,
it's
yeah. And but beautiful towns, beautiful cities,
hmm.
and beautiful women. That's the good thing
Yeah,
about leaving out the area and going exploring because uh when I was younger, what I used to do, and I suggest this to people also, is I used to go to an airport on a Friday and find like the cheapest flight to the most interesting city, and I would go there for the
really.
weekend and just stay and just explore the city and then come
What
back
was the
home.
what was the craziest or coolest city you did that?
Um, I want to say it was Kansas City. No, Dayton, Dayton, Ohio.
Dayton, Ohio.
Dayton, Ohio.
Wow, that sounds boring.
All right. So at first look, it was very boring. So what happened was I ended up meeting somebody at a bar. At the
Uh-huh.
time when I smoked cigarettes, we ended up sharing a cigarette, and where they at, like, like, I guess the main part of the town shuts down at like 10, 11 o'clock. He's like, I'm going to this party. You want to come? And I'm like, fuck it, why not? So we end up going to this like this house that's like off the road. And as we get closer to the house, um, all the furniture is in the front yard. There's a big ass pool next to that, and there are people jumping out like the second story window into the pool. On the side of the house, you can see like flames. There's like a half a block mile fire that they started. And they just throwing shit in there. There's kegs of beer and Jaeger and Hennessy and all type of shit in the backyard, and I'm just like, I have never been to anything like this in my life, and this is the most boring town in the world that I had the most fun in my life so far.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, so was it like a college frat party?
No, this was like
Just a
uh,
house party?
just a house party. Like Fridays, this is what they did.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
and the that was the funnest, but it wasn't the wildest. The wildest was Libertyville in Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
And I went there, and just so happened it was X Games weekend. I had no idea about this. I just happened to go. And the hotel I was staying, it was up on the mountain, but everybody partied down in the town where the resorts were. And go to the go to the resorts. Everyone's like inside drinking hot chocolate and shit, and somebody's like, there's a party at some rich family's house that everyone knew in the town. Like, if you got
Mhm.
money, then that's where you go to party or whatever. And I can just remember having 3 or 4 cups, chilling in the jacuzzi with these girls, and then waking up the next day in this room with like 10 other people passed out next to me. And it just the bodies everywhere. And I'm just like, I can't believe I fell asleep here. What the fuck happened?
How old were you?
Oh, at that time I was 25.
Perfect.
Yeah. So it was different, but it was I was like it was like what was that? It was a somebody had a meerkat like as a pet. And I'm just like, because I was like, that's a big fucking cat. And I didn't know until somebody broke it down to me the next day. And I just like, at 2 o'clock, because I woke up like around 11, they said, yeah, we're going to start up again around 4. I'm like, yeah, fuck that shit. I need the rest. I can't do it again.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I used to party like that all the time. Uh, I kind of miss those days, and then I kind of don't.
I miss
But
the energy I had. I don't miss the hangovers and shit.
yeah, yeah. I stopped drinking about a year ago, so I uh I do not miss, I don't miss the hangovers at all. Um,
So you quit around the time you started comedy?
yeah. Quit about a month before.
Okay.
Yeah.
You just didn't you didn't want to do it anymore. You felt like it was just like getting out of control.
Uh, I mean, it wasn't ever like where I mean, I don't know what constitutes an alcoholic.
Mm.
Everybody has a different, I don't know. I just felt like it was time to stop. There were a couple of factors too. Doing something creative, I had never done it before, and I was very insecure about writing anything that was my idea and putting it out there for anybody. That gave me so much anxiety, and I was like having a hard time self-assessing. I was being real critical of myself, and I would just be tore up about whatever. And I found that alcohol increased that anxiety, because sometimes I'd be drinking and I think I have a great idea and I write it down. And by the way, I was first doing sketch videos on YouTube. Like, that was what I started to do. So it gave me such an exhilaration. But then as I started to like go from just that initial inspiration to like continuing to create things, I just had this awful, just negative voice in my head saying that's really dumb and just, really self-critical. And like, I wasn't in a good place mentally to do it. So I was like, like, okay, I'm wrestling with these thoughts and this anxiety. Alcohol is definitely not helping. So why don't I just cut out alcohol? That way I can more clearly think about, this artistic side that I'm trying to express. And I think I was so type A growing up. Like, I always wanted to get good grades. I always wanted my parents to I always wanted to suck up to my parents, to the teachers. I wanted to always do everything perfect, that I was really hard on myself. So like, when you're creating something, you have to give yourself permission to fail and all that. So I had all that going on. So I'm still wrestling with that. Like, I still wrestle with like that anxiety. And that's just a constant struggle. So, but that I knew alcohol was not going to help me. I was like, I felt like I'm crazy creating stuff sometimes. So like, remove the alcohol, I can think more clearly and be sober. And the same thing with stand-up. Like, a lot of people, when they start doing stand-up, they feel like they need to have a couple of beers to like take the edge off and go up there. I never have been under the influence of anything on stage, and I kind of prefer it like that. Because it's so hard to evaluate stand-up. Like, you record your sets, you feel what it's like in the moment, but you have to get in front of so many audiences to know like if it's really good or not, and how to tweak it. You have to be so dialed into stuff that like alcohol doesn't help with that. So for me, like, I was so much happier having this outlet and stand-up comedy, and these creative things. I didn't need, and alcohol wasn't helping it. And I found I didn't need it. I don't really feel tempted to do it, or, I have just as much fun with my friends still. Like, I still go out to bars and, with friends, I just get a Red Bull. So, it's a,
Yeah, I think that a lot of people that have addictive personalities doesn't realize that they do, and no matter what they're doing. Oh, okay.
I do, dude.
So,
Food, man, I'll eat so much food, like in one sitting. Like, I'll eat a whole pizza by myself, like, and that can translate to alcohol or anything else.
so I mean, you obviously not really suffering from the backlash of overeating. Are you working out?
No, no, I hate working out.
All right, all right. I'm about to end this show. I can't stand people like you. What do
No,
you?
dude, I'll tell you what the secret is. Fasting. You ever try fasting?
Yeah, yeah. I tried it.
So there's a guy on YouTube called Cole Robinson.
Okay.
He has this thing called the snake diet. And this is like not your mom's version of fasting. Like, this is like hardcore. Like, some people would say it's controversial because he promotes long-term fasting.
Hmm.
So yeah, if you a couple of years ago, I was at my cousin's open house,
Hmm.
and she had like Krispy Kremes and tacos and Chick-fil-A, and I was filling up my plate, and I just crushed all of this. And then they took a picture, and I saw a picture of myself, and I was like, dude, like, I'd put on like 20 pounds. My face was all pudgy. I was like, man, I look like crap. So then I was like, what do I fix this? So I found Cole Robinson, the snake diet guy. And yeah, basically I had 20 pounds to lose. His strategy is do prolonged fasting. So like, start with a 48-hour fast. You don't eat anything for 48 hours. And then you refeed with the ketogenic meal. So just like basically lettuce and meat. And then continue to do that. After 48 hours, your body will be in ketosis and you'll be in fat burning mode.
Hmm.
And your body as a machine will eat away all of the fat that you're trying to lose. It's just a matter of if you're willing to do that. I like it because it gets results really fast. And after about a month, I'd cut down to the weight I am now. And then once you're at the goal weight, then you can kind of, what I do is I don't eat until the evening. So I'll have black coffee in the morning, and then I'll eat at dinner. But I'll usually only eat like one meal a day. But during that meal, I eat a lot. I eat a ton. But yeah, I don't work out. I stay the same weight. So I should work out. I need to work out for mental health, but
I think that having uh having your blood flowing and pumping up your endorphins will help with like anxiety. Most definitely, I've seen the results of that. I've seen it help people control it a lot better. So you know
yeah. Yeah, I should do that for anxiety. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, if you like not used to running, I've seen it. I've seen people like not really change their life completely, but help them get a grasp on, the emotions and how everything affected especially when it comes to anxiety. And then,
Hmm.
you know, you almost instead of you not recognizing your ups and downs, you'll feel them through, what I'm saying, physical stress and stuff like that.
What workouts do you do?
Knife and fork to plate. So no, to be quite honest, I'm still suffering from the position I was put in last year from, not being able to get out and meet people and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
now that I got I guess you could say a permanent work schedule. Now I'm getting back into the habit of, exercising and stuff like that. So, I mean, but to be honest, since November I lost 25 pounds. So,
Nice.
I'm on the downward spiral. That's going to help me be in a positive way.
How'd you lose the 25? Was it diet focus? Was it combination?
Cutting out fried foods and the job I was working at the time. So I was working delivery company, and then I'm in and out the truck, 100 plus times a day. So the weight's going to drop eventually.
Yeah. Hmm.
So now I'm focusing on not eating after 8, and I just started intermittent fasting. So
Oh, great. Okay, yeah. Similar concept. What I was talking about is an extreme version, but
yeah, I don't know about 48 hours,
dude, you
so.
could do 48. I always say people could do 48. That breaks your fear of fasting and
Well,
just proves mentally you can do it.
I definitely have the fat to burn. I just know that, like with anything, it's a mental thing. It's
Hmm.
like when I quit smoking cigarettes
Hmm.
last year. You know,
Congrats on that, by the way. That's huge.
I appreciate it. I wish I had, did it years ago. And I kept telling myself that, I'm gonna quit, I'm gonna quit, I'm gonna quit. And I tell everybody, last year was the best worst thing for a lot of people, you know.
Hmm.
So it took a lot away, but it gave me so much more.
Hmm.
So, I took advantage of everything I could during the downtime, quote unquote. So
Hmm.
now, something that I had in the back of my mind 3 years ago, I'm 1 year in it, and
Hmm.
growing steadily. And, I got to meet interesting people like you and yourself, have, come on and talk to me all types of stuff. And, I made so many connections and picked up so much new strategies that's going to help me grow as a person and a business owner at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, man. I felt like the pandemic, I it was a huge blessing for me. Um, I was just kind of in a pattern of like existing, and I wasn't really, I needed the world to slow down for me to figure all this stuff out about myself and everything and get the chance to do cool stuff like this, to your point. So yeah, I mean, it was bad for a lot of people, but I was pretty grateful for some of the silver linings.
So was it people like Seinfeld and Louis C.K. that gave you like the inspiration to start comedy?
Yeah, I think Louis Louis came out with a special last year that I watched. I was before I got on stage for the first time. Um, I don't know. I guess I always had like the desire or curiosity about it. Like downtown Greenville, the Comedy Zone, that's the main comedy club here, and it's
Hmm.
cool because we get celebrity comics in town. It's a good room. And I remember when I moved here for the first time, I was walking down Main Street and I saw a comedy club. And as soon as I saw a comedy club, like the sign, like there was something in my head that was like, that is so cool. Like I was drawn to it. Like I was like, I wanted to do, like, I barely gave myself permission to like think I could even try it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, oh my gosh, there's a comedy club right where I'm living. Like it's right there. Like it's not far off on a stage on a TV screen in Hollywood or New York. There's a comedy club right there. Like, and I remember one night, I haven't told this story to anybody, but I was walking downtown and it was super late, and the door to the Comedy Zone club, that the show had already been over, nobody was up there, and I opened the door to the comedy club and I was like, oh my gosh, it's unlocked. And I walked up the steps, and the comedy club there, it's kind of in an attic sort of. A lot of comedy clubs are in the basement, but you walk up the steps and there's the stage, and it was all dark, but I could see where the stage was. And I walked up on the stage and just kind of looked around, and I was like, this is wild, man. This is crazy. Like I have to do this. Like, and I eventually, it was a couple months after that where a friend of mine invited me to an open mic, and I had a tortured thought in my head. I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go. When she sent me that text, but I was like, I have to go. So I went, I signed up. I did horrible, but it was just, and yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, the other night on Thursday night, I went back on stage after the show was over, and I just got one of those, the new iPhone that has like the wide angle lens or whatever. And I took a picture from what it looks like when you're looking out on stage. And I just kind of like, it was being almost a year of trying it. And I was just like, wow, like this is cool that you're doing it. Like you remind yourself of that on bad nights. Like when you don't have a set that goes well, like you're still doing comedy. Like that's still really cool. And yeah, so the celebrity comics definitely inspired me and developed an interest in me, but there was also like just something that I don't know, that just struck a chord, like something that I really felt like I wanted to try for a very long time. It just took me a while to just do it.
Most of your life, apparently. So.
Yeah. I'm getting old. Thanks for reminding me. Like,
well, I got you by 3 years, so don't feel bad.
Okay.
Actually, I got you by 4 years, but that's neither here nor there.
Word.
So, I mean, I always tell people, or I always tell comedians, because I'm a fan of it. I think Jerry Seinfeld said it best. However, how long you've been doing comedy is how old you are in the game. So
Yep.
you're a 1 year old, so it's gonna take
The
some
baby.
time. Yeah, it's gonna take some time before you get into that rhythm and that confidence builds up. And then it's like you're not just going up to do a set. You're just up there being yourself. And
Yep.
then once your shoulders loosen up and you no longer tense, then it's not going to be a good night or bad night. It's going to be how the crowd reacted to you. So it's either going to be good, or it's going to be great. Good is when people understood but didn't really get it. Great is when you feel like you crushed it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's unique. Like there's no substitute. There's no shortcuts to getting good at stand up. It's just repetition and self-evaluation and experimentation with material and all of that. So yeah, you look back, months before, like when you started, and you kind of cringe at what you thought was good back then, and then months from now I'll probably cringe at where I am now and all. So
you ever thought about going to like acting school to help improve like your stage presence and everything?
I've thought about taking acting classes. Yeah, I think that'd be really fun. because I like to do sketch comedy as well.
Hmm.
Uh, I mean, I haven't done much since last spring, spending more time on stand up, but I like movies and you know, directing and editing and putting together videos. And you know, we've talked to comics about doing some things here and having us play different roles. And if I'm going to try and act and have my friends try and act, I think that'd be really helpful. And I definitely think that would help for stage presence and just understanding how to communicate emotion to an audience in a way that's the most effective. Um, absolutely. Um, there was actually a little production here they shot in Greenville. I think it's going to be on show. It's a web based series. It's called It's Complicated. Johnny Sizemore directed it,
Okay.
and I got invited to be an extra on that. And that was the first time I had seen like a professional um, uh, production of like a TV show, and I got so excited being there. Like that was really fun. Um, there was a lot of sitting and waiting and things like that, but when you see those actors up close and see like how they're able to just get in character
Hmm.
and act out a scene, like I had a lot of appreciation for the talent that takes. So yeah, absolutely. I don't think I'll ever be a good actor, like really good or anything, but I think it could help. Absolutely. Um, I think Louis even said that. Like he's a stand-up comedian first. He'll act kind of as, but his version of acting is just being himself, and
Hmm.
that's kind of how I would have to be. I think I don't, unless I'm playing something ridiculously silly. I don't know, but I probably just have to be a goofy version of me in front of the camera. Like that's probably what I would do. But yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of uh, movie stars or, you know, I guess accredited actors who aren't great acting. Like, do you think Vin Diesel's a good actor? You know, he he's just Vin Diesel doing different shit.
Yeah,
You know, action star driving cars or a CIA babysitter or some shit. You know,
yeah,
like this is Vin Diesel on a planet with monsters. You know,
yeah,
like
yeah,
this.
yeah.
So
Vin Diesel. I remember Vin Diesel was in Saving Private Ryan.
he was.
Yeah, I think so. He got shot pretty early.
He probably was small too back then.
Smaller to, yeah.
Yes.
I don't think he was
So,
as jacked.
you know, situations like that, I don't I always tell people it doesn't matter, what other people have as far as accolades for focus on yourself. Like, you know who Topher Grace is, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So, back in was it 97 when that 70s show started? Something
Yeah.
like that. I think it was like 97, 98. But, as soon as that show came out, it was instantly one of my favorites outside of like Seinfeld and shit like that. So I followed his career and I watched like all the productions he did, and then I saw like a mini little documentary about him.
Uh-huh.
And people say he fell off, or his career didn't go anywhere after that 70s show. And then they were saying that when he did that show, he got like 180,000 episode. And I'm like, he was in a position to retire early. So
Yeah.
he when it comes to those like syndication deals, you
Holy.
could make enough money to do whatever you want,
Yeah.
once you get to a certain age, or if you feel as though you tired or you don't work every
Yeah.
day. Like,
Yeah.
he had enough money to do what he wanted. He ended up being in Spider-Man. He ended up being in like
Spider-Man 3. Yeah, I
a
remember.
couple of rom-coms, and now he's on a show, I think that's on ABC, that's doing pretty good. They got picked up for a second season. So,
Hmm.
you
So
know,
he has that comfort and freedom to do what he wants because of the syndication money.
exactly. So,
Hmm.
it's consistency and work, because, you know, I didn't know like Charlie Sheen was making like 4 million an episode on Two and a Half Men.
Yeah.
It's crazy how much money you can make depending on, what you got going on. So, you
Yeah.
know, any opportunity. I think is better than nothing because what you see on TV and what you actually doing behind the camera is two different things. So, taking that chance, regardless to what it is, you never know what might come from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David, I don't know if everybody knows how wealthy they are, but they're some of the wealthiest actors and comedians in Hollywood. Jerry's almost a billionaire because of the Seinfeld money,
Hmm.
and Larry similarly. Um, and what I love about it is you might not know a lot about what Jerry's doing with his career, kind of like Topher Grace. I mean, he's aside from the comedians in cars getting coffee, it's not like he's in movies or doing a lot of crazy stuff post Seinfeld show. He did, some stuff. But what I love is that he's still doing stand up. When the New York comedy clubs open back up, when Gotham Comedy Club opened back up post pandemic, the first night, Jerry was there on stage.
Hmm.
And of any guy that doesn't need the money to be on stage doing stand up, like that's how it's like it comes from like a real passion. Um and that's where I kind of like stand up compared to acting, is if you're an actor, you kind of have to get cast in a role to be
Hmm.
able to do your art, and you have to be mindful of like, okay, how do I come across well to like this director, or like get cast in this role? But with stand up, you can just do it. You know, you can find an open mic anywhere in the country if you want, or um and hopefully, get book shows at some point. But stand up, you can just do it by yourself. So
Yeah, I mean, but I always encourage people like if they have an idea and I hear them talking about it like repeatedly, like like what you saying with like doing sketches. Like you said, you haven't done it since last spring, right?
yeah,
I mean, put an idea out there and working with other people or doing anything, it'll make you stronger in other aspects of life. You know what I'm saying? So I look forward to seeing some of your sketches and see what you come up with because I think it'll be dark and humorous at the same time. You know, so I can see you like bringing some of your jokes to life in a sketch because
yeah,
that's what people are looking for these days. Short little videos
yeah.
that's really inside of like 5 minutes or something like that, and that it just constantly gets shared, turned into TikToks, stuff like that.
Yeah, I appreciate the encouragement, man. Uh, and yeah, you're right. Those quick bites are what people want. The 60 seconds or less, the attention spans. And it's actually, I mean, I thought that was kind of annoying in a way, but I also think now it puts pressure on you to edit very precisely and have your video be really valuable. It's people's attentions are valuable too. So you want to have it dialed in. You don't want to, it's like a stand-up set. You don't want to have a lot of periods where people aren't laughing. You want to have jokes packed on jokes on jokes on jokes.
Hmm.
I think the audience deserves that. If they're paying money, certainly, but even if they're at an open mic, I mean, an open mic is torture if people suck. So it's like pack it with jokes, edit it down, similar to you would on a video clip. Like so.
I mean, that's the great thing I love about my show. Like when I tell stories about my life, um, and I just put those out there in certain videos or audio files. Um, I'm not looking for people to laugh or to get a certain response. This is just me telling a story about my life, and then
Absolutely.
unfortunately, it's mostly people laughing at the pain and stress I went through. So I'm
You hear Kevin Hart special? Laugh at my pain.
basically, except that um there's no type of fluff added to it or nothing like that, or no little tweak to it to make it more of a comedy bit. It's just like you know i I met a serial hitchhiker. you know yeah, yeah. Your facial
A
expression.
girl,
No, it was a guy.
a
it was
guy.
it was a guy. I had a deer set me up for me to hit my head, chasing me. It was ridiculous. I got fired from McDonald's on my day off. Like this is all the things that attributed to me creating the show, because I would tell people these stories and they like, no fucking way. And I'm like, no, but I have witnesses. I can't make this up.
Yeah. So you had a series of like messed up failures happen to you that
I wouldn't
pushed
say
you into.
I wouldn't say messed up failures. It's just like random stuff. Like, for instance, right? I used to work at this auto parts warehouse years ago, and I'm sitting outside on my break. I'm like, I'm on my phone, like on Facebook or some shit. And you know how like when you're not really paying attention, but you could feel like someone's presence around you.
Mhm.
And I just looked over to my right, and it's just like little Asian lady standing next to me with like a black garbage bag. And I'm like, take my headphone. Hello? She's like, what she say? She was like, you eat ribs? I'm like, what? She's like, you eat ribs. I got ribs you buy. And I was like, you got ribs? And she opened up this bag and she had like packs of like ribs and shit, like all shrink wrapped or whatever. And
Uh-huh.
she was like showing me the different ones and prices and shit. And I didn't want to entertain her, so I was like, I'm vegan. I'm sorry, I can't buy that from you. And her friendly expression turned into like this frown. And she just was like, fucking vegan. And she walked off. And I was like, did that just happen? That just happened. And like I'm calling some of my coworkers. I'm like, did you see the little Asian lady with the bag of ribs? They like, what are you talking about? I'm like, come on, man. I'm not
That's
making
messed up. She offers you ribs and
yeah,
then says,
yeah,
"Dang."
yeah, man. So it's stuff like that. That happens to me that creates my I guess you could say lineage of my story. And once I finish my book, people will be able to understand the full introspective of why I am the way I am and what I do.
It's great you're writing a book, man.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna once it's out, I think that it'll be one of those books that everyone talks about. I'm not looking to be Oprah or nothing like that, but I'm looking for a positive reception to my story.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be following that closely. I'll definitely read that. Um, my dad took the plunge and wrote a book last year, and just something he'd always wanted to do.
Hmm.
But it was kind of reflections on his life and some stories that he thought would be helpful for people. But is that similar to what the structure of your book is?
It's more of an autobiography,
Mm-hmm.
but even in every story I tell and I put out there, I'm always, giving, my honest perspective on the situation, and then, my reaction and how things should be to, how people should, act accordingly to those situations. Because, like, I had a girl who, who drugged me and was obsessed with me, and who tried to follow me home. And I ended up finding out that she had some mental stuff going on. But
Mm-hmm.
it went from me like totally rejecting her to me having a serious conversation with her and letting her know, like, you need to be focusing more on yourself than trying to find love from somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So what people took from that was that it went from a negative to me trying to help this girl. Like, for me just calling her crazy to, me actually having an adult conversation and trying to understand why she did what she did and stuff like that.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So,
So she drugged you?
yeah. Yeah, man. She drugged me, and it was like on my first night, like meeting up with her. And you know how
Was
it
it like a
is.
roofie? Like you just woke up in bed naked? Like
So
what?
without getting into too many details, basically what happened was I went over to her house. Uh, she had like poured some wine, was eating popcorn and watching a movie, and then like maybe 15 or 20 minutes into the movie, I just blacked out. I woke up. I was in her bed. I was undressed. She was laying on top of me, and I had no idea what happened in between that time. Still to this day, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Dang, dude.
it
I
was it
wonder
was
how often girls do that. Like,
I don't
do they get a
know.
pass because it's always the other way around? Like, nobody's looking at girls who roofie guys. I wouldn't
I
mind getting roofied as long as I could remember the good parts. If I could remember the sex, I think I'd be fine. That's
I
maybe about.
I'm not the views and opinions
I'm just I'm just
of
kidding.
Dave Baker does not reflect the I Can't Make This Up podcast.
Maybe we should cut this out. I don't know.
uh
I'm saying just
um
me. I'm not saying anybody else.
no. I mean, but you're right. There are all types of catch 22s when it comes to those situations, and um some people feel strongly on the bias when it comes to stuff of that nature, and
Mhm.
it's always going to be um I'm right, I'm wrong situation is, but like with anything that people arguing about, you should just look at the facts, and whatever
Mhm.
the facts are, what I'm saying, those are the details you should go from, not from an emotional standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Um, yeah, it's such a touchy subject.
Yeah.
Uh, and you're right. The emotion. It seems like obviously nobody should ever be roofied. I didn't mean anything like that, but
Hmm.
like when anybody's accused of anything in the public sphere, it seems like their verdict is like in the court of public opinion. Like everybody, their mind has been made up before they have their day in like a court of law, you know, um, and before all the facts are out.
Yeah.
So it's tough out there for some people. Um, but
Yeah, it's tough out there for a lot of people, and
mm,
unfortunately, we live in such a crazy society that I don't see a change of a on a large scale for a very long time from now. But I see a little upshift. I see a little bit more positivity. I see more people coming together. I mean,
mhm.
it's still some bad eggs out there, but I don't let it I don't let it, take hold in my subconscious. I focus on what I can control, and, spreading as much positivity as possible, and just, trying to make sure people take accountability for their actions, and be a decent person at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, yeah, I feel like we try to do that with stand up as well. Um, no matter what we're trying to do, like it comes from. I think Patrice O'Neill had a comment about that. Like even stuff that people might be offended over or whatever, like it's all coming from this a good place. We're just trying to make people laugh. We're trying to spread positivity and get people to enjoy themselves. We're never. Well, I don't know. I don't think I've met any comedians who've ever been trying to piss people off just for its own sake. Like so.
Yeah, man. Hey, at the end of the day, you can't you can't control other people's actions. You can only control how you respond to them.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
but
that's right.
either way, it is what it is.
It
And
is what it is.
this has been dope, Dave, man. I got to have you back on. We got to do this again.
Dude, yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, and I'll be keeping a close eye out on your podcast um and your book, man. I'm excited to hear that. Is there anything else you have in the works before we go? Is there anything else you plan to do?
Well, I'm working on this game show called What You Got. It's a debate show, and I'm in the process of recording those episodes, and I'm gonna try to put them out, by the in the summer. But I'll send you links to when I'm dropping trailers and stuff like that. I think you'll enjoy it.
Good deal. Yeah, please keep me in the loop, and if we ever get the sketch comedy going, I'll definitely loop you in on all that.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check you out, and try to share, try to get people into the insight and the mind of who you are and what you got going on.
That means so much, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. So why don't you let the people know what you got going on, or anything you got coming up?
So, first of all, if you want to follow me, David Bakker 7. That's 2 K's in Baker, Bakker 7 at G or that's my email address. That's just my you could email me if you want. I just gave it to you. David Bakker 7. I don't know how many people are gonna be emailing me now. Whatever. You can. I don't care. Uh So Instagram is where I do a lot of my stuff. And my podcast, I did this instead of killing myself, all one word. It's linked to my Instagram page. And then you can see clips on the Instagram page, and the podcast is available on all major platforms. So Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, really anything. And episode 10 will be coming out this Monday. And I don't know if there's any listeners here in the Greenville, South Carolina area, but if there are, I have a show this Saturday at the Flat restaurant off of Woodruff Road in Greenville. That starts at 8:00. So there'll be some. I'm opening for that show, so if you go, you wouldn't be paying just to see me. You'd be paying to see a lot of other comics as well, and it's a really fun show. I'll be in Charleston next Thursday. Depending on when this goes up, that'll be Thursday, June 24th. And yeah, if you follow me on Instagram, like I put where I'll be or where any of the Greenville comics would be. And if you do follow the podcast, like it's not just about me, it's about all the local comics. So we really appreciate any follows because you get to see a cool perspective of who the comics are, and it helps grow the local comedy scene. And I think local comedy is going to be coming back in a big way. So that's about it. My YouTube channel is David Bakker 16. So I have all the podcast clips on there and some stand-up clips on there. And if you want to check that out, would love if you did.
David Bakker, ladies and gentlemen. I've been your host, the Landover Legend, aka Big T, and this has been another installment of the I Can't Make This Up podcast. That's I Can't, with a K, Make This Up podcast. You can find this show everywhere podcasts are available. I'm also on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. And could you please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, follow button, like button. And if you got a problem with anything that was said on there, please leave a comment and I'll block you. Until next time, peace.
I can't make this up. Being the wingman got me punched in the face by this crazy chick. I can't make this up. Gave this cool old man a ride home, now I'm harboring the fugitive. I can't make this up. Pinned between the fat chick and the speaker, now my shirt smell like her backside. I can't make this up. It's all bad cause my man about to get stabbed in his hand over french fries. Bet.
I'ma let T tell you that story one day, man. It's a good one.
And I'ma let the Landover legend do the rest. I'm out.